Well, hello, everyone. We are back, and James is back. I mean, last week he was not here in our viewing, but he was here. So, a lot has happened, I guess, in a matter of a couple days. I mean, last time we talked about, we said we had a lot we were doing. We were in a special place last time. So, I think that was pretty cool. We kind of briefed over it, but, we were really important last week. We got to go to a really cool place. It's called the White House. Not any house, the White House. That's where we were. So, James, tell me about the White House. What do you think?
I think it's pretty awesome. I think like we started a podcast 3 seasons ago on the WNBA. We now have two team specific podcasts, and I have to shout the WNBA. Like they have been very kind to us, very generous with the access that they've given us. We were at the WNBA game in Canada, All Star game in Vegas, and now at the White House as well. Now, I will be honest, I did look at flights for this event. Uh, But after seeing the price of flights, I decided that I would send someone else. So
Yeah.
Jamie, who does our IndyCar coverage, she's already been at events this year. She did the race in Nashville, but I called her up and said, "Hey, you're in DC. How do you fancy going to the White House?" At which point she was like, "Sorry, what?" Uh, so like she was excited. She was really excited to go and be at the White House and cover this for us, which was really cool. And I got to watch it live. Like it wasn't on TV, but if you go onto the White House website, you got to watch it live. And obviously, like anything in the White House, it's always late, so it's like about 20 minutes late. But I have to say, like, I do watch these events occasionally. Like, they do come up on TV, and I was like, "This is blown away," because I think this is the first time I've actually properly watched the speeches.
Oh, yeah.
Usually, you just see the jersey kinda getting floated around,
Mhm.
when you watch it on TV and just someone talking over it, but for this, like, I got to listen to the speeches, and I think Vice President Harris, and by the way, like, usually it's the president that does these things, and he was
He was
unavailable.
he extended his vacation and was not there.
Yes. Yeah, he was not there. And I'm kinda glad. I'm kinda
Yeah.
glad it was Vice President Harris because I think she spoke so eloquently, but with there was, like, a bit of force behind it. Um, she talked about the players a
Yeah.
lot. Now, obviously, like, she has researchers and loads of things going on in the background that, she gets fed information, but at the same time, like, it felt very genuine. It was
Yeah.
very much like, Kelsey does this, Chelsea does that, Asia does this, and is involved in this in the community, and yeah, it just kind of felt a bit more like I've seen it when Obama did. I think it was a baseball team he was kind of celebrating years ago, and yeah, it's kind of like shake the hands, here's a
Yeah.
jersey, off you go. Whereas there seemed to be a lot more substance behind this
Mhm.
one, and I think that's really really good, and I think again it's another opportunity for young girls to see
Oh,
like
yeah.
what they can achieve,
Mhm.
and where they can go. And if you can go to the White House, I mean, like you said, like everyone in the world knows what the White House is.
I think that's so important what you just said. For the young girls, I think that's really important. And they're seeing not just athletes, but somebody in the front office as well. They're seeing somebody in the Oval Office. They're seeing so maybe they don't play sports and they want to respect somebody. They're seeing that. They're not seeing and not to sound biased, they're not seeing a male, with it, they're seeing what they can do, what they can aspire to become. And I think that's so important because I'm a huge believer in the future is female. Seeing what we can do and bringing all of that to the table. And I think the WNBA is doing a great job in making sure the players are, being presented in a certain way. Obviously there's things that people are obviously not happy with the WNBA about, but I think, these names, I've talked about it quite often. Asia Wilson, making a huge difference. People want to be like them. they wanna be able to, like, especially if you play basketball, they have somebody who they can be a role model after, like, they can have a role model, and that's awesome to see them at the White House and see everybody coming together. One thing I did really like, was that they had players who are not on the team anymore still come out.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how that would work, right? Because I wasn't sure if, I mean, I didn't know if they would just bring players who were on the team and maybe not invite them, the ones that were on the team. So I think it was cool to like see them come out and everybody be together and like, I don't want to say one big happy family, but everybody's coming together for this particular like union, and I thought that was cool. Like that was that was interesting to see.
You're right, I noticed that as well, and that is a very there's 2 things here that are both very Mark Davis. Mark Davis is the owner, could
Mhm.
have been there and could have taken center stage, and Nicky Fargas as team president wouldn't maybe necessarily have got to speak. It would
Yeah.
have been Mark, but he stayed away. And another thing that is very Mark Davis is we just had alumni weekend, and where he celebrates the players of the past.
Yeah.
We've seen the what Michelle was presented with the pendants and things, which was amazing. If you want to see those, do check out Across the Pond WNBA, the latest episode on there because it's still there on YouTube as well. Pictures, but it's just so Mark Davis to bring in those players, like because some of those players play out in other places in the W now.
Yeah.
So to still bring those players, and I think it's a really nice touch, and it made me think at the time. I was like, can I actually remember a time where a team went to the White House and brought former players that have maybe left in the off season? And it maybe has happened, but not
Yeah,
to my
that's why I wasn't sure
recollection.
what the ruling was there either. I was like, "Wait, do they bring former players?" Because again, like you said, players get traded, players go off, players get cut. So it's like, what is the rule there? I wasn't 100% sure, but to see them all come together, I really like that.
Yeah, I really liked as well. And the thing is, I don't think there is a rule. I think it is right. The Las Vegas Aces are coming to town. They're coming to DC to play the Mystics, or they're going to be on the East Coast. So let's bring in the team. And I think it's really down to the team who they invite.
Yeah.
And I think that's why those former players were invited. And I thought that was great because I seen one of them like right at the front, and I was like, she's not on the team anymore. Uh, but, but
You
I
saw
was
Asia
like,
Shepherd for sure in the back,
yeah.
that was cool to see. Now, did they invite players that were on the actual like, who weren't on the team last year, but who were on the team this year? I wonder if they were in the mix. I wasn't I don't know if I saw everybody there, so I was like, "Wait."
Well, I think pretty much the only difference, this year was Candace Parker,
Oh, that's true. Okay.
really. So I think everyone else was pretty much as was, other than the players that had kinda left, but nah, I thought it was wonderful. I thought it was a
Mhm.
really, really well done. One picture that we do have that we're gonna throw up on screen is and I think and it was Michelle that pointed this out, she sent it to me, and it is Nicky Fargas and the vice president, and like what Nicky Fargas has done for not just the WNBA but for the Las Vegas Aces in her leadership. And you look at this picture and you're just like, there is power
Oh, yeah.
in this picture.
There's definitely power in that photo. There is definitely somebody you can, like, respect and admire a lot.
It is a great picture of them kind of obviously walking down the corridor, but I just think it is so I mean, this could be one of those iconic pictures that you keep flashing back to,
Yeah.
time and time again. Like I say, the whole event was phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
They
I
always are.
I can say I didn't watch the actual event itself just because, at the time it was just I wasn't able to catch it, but I did catch like different like clips from it and got to see. And I think that was really cool. Like everybody coming together, you can tell everybody was really happy to see each other. Um, there's
They were
photos of
dancing.
Yeah, there's photos like Asia Wilson with everybody like having a good time. I mean, and you could tell from the parade last year, everybody's having a good time. You know, obviously going into talking about games a little bit, a little preset there, but maybe did we have a little too much fun and went into the Liberty game? Or are we not gonna say that?
Well, I feel like the Liberty are. I think they're in the driver's seat right now,
Yeah.
and I think that, and we spoke about it at the beginning of the season. A couple of injuries and to key players, then we're in trouble. And unfortunately, that's happened
Yeah.
with Candace, and she's really just not around. And the thought is that she won't be back this season,
No. And she's on a
which
1 year.
yeah, she's on a 1 year as well. So will she be back next season? Now I kind of get the feeling that as long as recovery and healing happens and,
Oh
and
yeah.
all goes well with that, if she's willing to play, or not willing, I think she'd always be willing, but if she's able to play
Yeah.
after recovery and stuff, I think she would come back to the Aces because I think she will see it as unfinished business.
I'm calling it now.
Um,
I think she doesn't come back obviously this season because she's recovering. She takes the off season, but I say the Aces re-sign her to another like 1 year contract. She finishes it out 1 year, does it, plays again. Because I think she has something she wants to prove, right? Like she didn't get that chance to this year. Like she was doing well, and then she got injured, and it was kind of like that's not how she wanted one more year to go, right? She wanted to be able to like end on a high note, and I think that's the hard part is figuring out. So obviously, depending, we want her to get better. We want her to like have full recovery and be able to like be the best that she can be, but it's also like you got to think about it as a team perspective too, and figure out what we're gonna do.
yeah, I think we had such a good start to the season with
Yes.
her. Now we have won games since she's been out, but the games that we really want to win were those Liberty games, and we've been blown out a couple of times. Now, this game we're going to talk about on Monday. Now, we all know that the WNBA doesn't play on Mondays, but they decided to, put this one on ESPN, and
Yes, at a
it was
decent hour.
at a decent hour. Well, unless you're in the UK, uh, but they put this on at a decent time, and uh, it was still a loss, but it didn't feel. I mean, a loss still feels bad, but it didn't feel quite as bad as getting absolutely blown out the water.
Yeah. There were times where we thought, we were still in, but I think towards the end, I think we understood we were not gonna win. There was points where the Liberty really were taking over, and I think that's what. And I think like watching the game, I was like, all right, like I was like, yeah, no, they've got this game. And I think that's tough too. Is when you're playing away, not to blame like the home versus away, right? But I think when you're playing in front of like the Liberty fans like that, playing a crowd that they were feeling good. Liberty felt good. They were playing well. They knew what they were doing. They were hitting shots that they should not have hit. I mean, there was one that I was like, "That's an air ball," and then she hit a three, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess." And I think that was the interesting part to see was like they were their confidence was at an all-time high. Ours was kind of in the middle. I mean, and I think that's what happens when you're kind of like, all right, you're not in your home environment and you don't have that morale, that extra little morale that maybe would have helped you get over the edge.
Yeah. One thing I will say about this game, and they build it so well, in all fairness, was the game was the most watched regular season game on
Yeah.
ESPN in 5 years, averaging 328,000 viewers. It peaked at 357. And that's a Monday. Mondays, especially this time of year,
Yeah.
like people are gearing up for football season.
Oh yeah.
Like they're getting like people are getting ready for that. Like we've just had preseason games and stuff. So um
Everybody's doing their fantasy football draft.
everyone's getting their fantasy football draft kind of out of the way. So I was kind of pleased to see how this panned out, and um, great to like the viewing figures are so huge now,
Yeah.
and there's such a big thing, and there's such a big argument as to why people should invest in women's sports. Like w- it begs questions as to why some companies aren't like investing in women's sport, and why people aren't, because you see now young girls in the audience at games.
Mhm.
They're now looking at the idols that they want to become. It's not like they are going to an NBA game and seeing like 10 guys run up and down the court.
Yeah.
They're actually going out to see players look like them that they can aspire to be. And
Yeah.
I think that's the change that the WNBA can be for so many young people. So I really hope that through this viewership, like companies need to start noticing. And in all fairness to ESPN, they also need to start noticing that they need to put more games on. And
Yeah.
I'll say this in the UK as well. We get one game a week in the UK live, and we did not get the Commissioner's Cup final. We did not get the All-Star game.
No.
I had to watch those games on League Pass.
Yeah.
And one thing that the WNBA probably don't do enough is promote League Pass, because although we're able to get the figures from ESPN, I really want to know the figures worldwide of how many people have League Pass, how many people are watching games regularly. Those are the figures I'm kind of interested in. Obviously, from being across the pond, I don't have access to ESPN and stuff. So, but yeah, I really hope, because these games this year, now, yes, some of them were blowouts, but these games have been phenomenally
Oh, yeah.
watched across the board, because, like, you know, people have branded both of these teams super teams, and
Yeah.
people wanna watch super teams. Like,
Mhm.
everyone tuned in to watch the Golden State Warriors, like, because they were branded a super team. Everyone tuned into the Miami Heat back in the day
I was
because they
just
were.
about to say, when the Miami Heat had the big 3, everybody was watching it, whether they wanted to watch it for because they were a fan or whether they wanted to watch it to see them go down. People want to watch these super teams. The same way the Yankees, right? People watch them. The Red Sox, the Patriots, right? Like they want to see these teams either fail or they want to see these teams win. You're either for them or against them.
Yeah, well, for the Patriots, let's just go against. Um, but, no, I get what you mean. And I think that, the Aces, the Liberty, and the other teams, like, we've seen some standout performances across the this year from teams. We've seen younger teams like Dallas, Indiana, Atlanta all really step up. And, they've given the Aces a lot of trouble on the
Yeah.
floor. 9 times out of 10, I think we've come out on top, but, we still have a really good record. But I think the last couple of weeks of the season, unfortunately, I think our record's gonna take a bit of a dent. We have the Mystics tonight. I believe Elena Delle Donne will be playing, uh, and she's obviously coming back from injury herself, but I she's one of my favorite players that isn't an ace, and, her playing is, you've already got Natasha Cloud on there. I mean, that's a tough team to play against guard-wise as well. So how do you feel tonight's gonna go?
I think it's gonna go well. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully, we can learn from what we just did right in New York. I mean, I think we've had a couple days off, which has been nice. But let's see how we've utilized that time, right? Like, have we been focusing on what we needed to improve, or are we ready to just go home and finish out the season? I mean, I think if it was me, I would be looking to like win this game to at least make sure that we're, especially for standing wise, like Liberty and the Aces are like neck and neck. So I think it's so important to see that we continue to like keep the momentum up and keep winning games, because otherwise we're in for a little bit of a trouble. Like, we don't want to run down to second place, but we also want to keep that momentum going in, like where we feel good and we know we can do this.
If you look at strength of schedule, I think we have the easiest schedule. So we've got the Mystics, the Storm, we've got the Mercury. Obviously, they've had a lot of issues. In fact, we've got the Mercury twice, so they've had a lot of issues. So the last 4 games of the season, I think, and you hope Can it go our way?
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, I think, and some of those teams have already been eliminated from like they know they're not going anywhere. So I mean, they're either playing just to beat us or they're playing just to like finish out the season. So I think it'll be interesting going into the next couple games. We're back home, which will be nice. Well, we're back definitely on the West Coast, which will be nice. I'm right now on the West Coast, so like I'm in Vegas. You can see the wind in the background. So that's why I wasn't able to go to DC either. I've been out in Vegas. I think it'll be I think tonight's game will be interesting to watch, just to see how they're feeling confidence wise. So let's see.
And don't worry, folks. I've already called Gamblers Anonymous because it has been noted that Samantha spends a lot of time in Vegas.
I do. I get this nice room. It's my house, so they already have the room
Heck of a
set up.
house.
They already have the room set up for me. Like when I get here, so I come out here, stay across from the wind, have the exact same view every time. I like this red carpet that I have, and it matches my hat.
Are
So
you like one of these whales that they talk about? They just come into town and
yeah,
they get everything they want. Uh,
yeah. I
say
have it
that they drop
reserved.
so much
It's
money.
just I call it my room. I'm like, hey, give me the usual.
Give me the usual.
You know, and then afterward, just go down to the casino, of course, and just yeah.
I can't even get the usual at the bar. Jeez.
Eh, One day,
Hanging,
one day, one day.
hanging with the wrong people.
Yeah.
I think towards the end of the season, we have managed to keep some of the momentum going. We have picked up wins. There is a there's a lot of issues still, but we have seen Becky use the bench more.
Yeah.
We've had some people come in, and I think if we can continue to do that over the next 4 games, I actually think it's important to get the number one seed because you get home court advantage all the
Exactly.
way to the finals. But like, if it's going to be 1-2 anyway, really, you're only going to miss out on home court in the finals. So I wonder if Becky, and I don't think Becky wants to throw games, but I wonder if these next 4 games we do
We're not
see a
making
lot
any
more.
accusations, guys. We're not
Yeah,
making any accusations.
and no, like, and I don't mean throw games on purpose, but what I mean is, and not throwing games really at all, but by playing the bench a lot more and not having your core group that are out there. Because at the same time, we want people to go into the playoffs fit and healthy. We've already lost one superstar. We could not afford if we lose anyone else from that starting five. Like we're done. I do think Asia Shepherd needs to start ahead of Kia Stokes, and we need to move Asia to the five.
Asia
And
Wilson.
yeah, and I like Asia didn't like she played the five last year because she had to out of necessity. We bring in Candace Parker so she doesn't have to play the five. But Candace Parker's gone and she's not coming back. So I think we do now need to have that conversation with Asia and say, look, we really need you inside at the five. We know that's not your preference, but it's what the team needs.
Yeah.
Um, and then we can break because I think Kia Stokes, as great as a role player as she is, I mean, no one on this team could replace Candace Parker. Nobody on a lot of teams could replace Candace Parker. So, in all fairness, like I just think we do need to make a structural change
Yeah,
in how we line up when it comes to the playoffs. And I think maybe we use these 4 games as like a testing ground as to how actually we're going to perform and how we're going to play come playoffs.
I agree with that. I think it'll be important, but maybe it's a little strategic, right? Maybe we're playing more of our bench, so they don't know what to expect, right? Not study just the core five, study who else we have on our team. Like we're throwing that in there in the mix to kind of mix it up a little bit, see what works, see what doesn't. So when we go into playoffs, we're not just depending on the core five and then teams figuring out, oh, if I do this, I know their moves. It's kind of figuring out who else we can put in there.
Exactly. No, perfect. Well, we will be back next week. So we'll have some news on the Mystics game and on the Seattle game. Hopefully, all good news. Hopefully, good and some positive steps forward. But we are getting closer to playoffs. Like this is where the excitement starts to build. I love playoff time. The only thing I don't love about playoff time is the time of the games are on, but generally I love the playoffs. Uh, and it's going to be exciting this year. I think. I think as well in the WNBA, there's always a wild card team that
Gonna
throws a
blow
spanner
away.
in the works. Now, either they're going to do it in the Liberty side of the bracket or they're going to do it in the AC side of the bracket. We don't quite know, but
Yeah,
I I don't think that Liberty Aces is a foregone conclusion when it comes to the finals anymore. Um, I think this playoffs could throw out one of those wild cards.
it'll be interesting to see. Maybe who knows? Maybe I'll be in Vegas. Let's see. Maybe if I'm in Vegas for their game against the Mystics, maybe I'll just have to stay out here. Maybe it's a good luck thing. Lately I've been been back home, been in Vegas, so who knows?
It's all about Vegas. Let's be honest. Right. Well, we will catch you all very soon. Please join us next week. We do have, if you are a Liberty fan or you want to hear what's going on with the Liberty fan, as a Liberty fan, you can listen to Across the Pond Liberty. Also, myself and Michelle did an episode on Across the Pond WNBA. So you can listen to that. We did talk about the White House and also Alumni Week, which was phenomenal. We got a lot of good pictures and videos from Michelle on there. So you can check our social media feeds as well. And yeah, we will see you next week. Enjoy.
Right.
And it's hopefully going to be a win for the Aces tonight.
Let's hope.